Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome once again to the LMN Live Virtual Academy classroom. My name is Chris Davies. I'm the Senior Education Specialist here. And today it's going to be my pleasure to walk you guys through job costing, and more specifically, the job costing feature and how it pertains to maintenance work or your regular recurring service work. So today we're going to be taking a look at all the ins and outs when it comes to job costing, any of the maintenance work that you guys are going to be doing within your own landscaping company. Now, before I get started, always remember that when we talk about our live virtual trainings, if you have any questions at any given time throughout the course of my webinar today, feel free to hit me up on that little Zoom toolbar at the very bottom of your screen. Hit the chat button, hit Q&A, and submit your questions there. I will be paying attention, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Now, I'm going to be walking through some sample or some demonstration material today, but for all intents and purposes, it will look different than your own accounts, but it will make sense to you guys, hopefully, about how you guys can job cost your own maintenance work within your own landscaping company. Now, as always, feel free to work alongside us today. So if there's anything that I'm doing in a demonstration or in the setup or what have you, you can do so in your account as well. And if you get stuck anywhere, let me know. Now, I did want to point out one quick little thing when it comes to questions, that if you have any important question or question about LMN and how it pertains to your landscaping company, please be advised that this session is open to any landscaping company that has recently signed on with LMN or is basically revisiting job costing or the job costing feature and wants to get a little bit more information about it. So if your question is private or confidential to your business, I do suggest that you write that question down. Reach out to our support team via chat, via phone, via email, whatever the case may be, and they'll get back to you to make sure that your question gets answered. All right, so keep that in mind moving forward. Now, on with job costing. So we kind of want to get a good idea of how the actual job costing feature in LMN works. So rather than boring you guys with slides and so on and so forth and jumping in and out of LMN all the time, we're going to basically focus primarily on the actual LMN software itself, rather than, again, going in and out of individual slides, to kind of give you guys an idea of how this feature actually works and make it a little bit more, well, demonstrative than, again, hopping in and out of a slide presentation. So we don't really want to do that anymore. So that being said, let's hop into LMN and let's take a look at how this works. So if I share my screen with you, and this will be the only time I share my screen with you guys, we want to start talking about job costing. Now, where do we get started, or how does job costing essentially work? Well, basically, or the Coles Notes, Cliff Notes for those of you in the US. Okay, the Cliff Notes or Coles Notes version or definition of job costing is estimated versus actuals, right? So the job costing feature in LMN is important because you guys want to understand if your estimated values that you guys quoted out in your original proposal to your customer are going to be less than or equal to the actual numbers that you guys get out of the actual job. So essentially, we want to look at the estimated costs, your actual costs, as well as your estimated revenues and your actual revenues when it comes to using the actual job costing feature in LMN. So where do we get started? Well, realistically, like I said before, estimated versus actuals. So what we want to really do today is we want to kind of get, where does job costing essentially start? Well, it starts with that original estimate. So if I take a look at my estimate list, okay, we're going to go into our maintenance or our service estimates, and we're going to take a look at the example that I'm going to be walking through today. Now, if I take a look at this service estimate that we put together, if I go into my services and pricing tab, I can see here that we've got mowing, fertilization, and bed maintenance. And that's a pretty straightforward maintenance contract, or a pretty simple maintenance contract, where we're going to be doing mowing per season, we're going to be doing fertilization per hour, and we're going to be doing bed maintenance per visit. Now, at the very top of the screen, when we're taking a look at this original proposal, we can see what our estimated costs are going to look like and our estimated revenue, right? Or our estimated end result. Now, if you want to get really down and dirty with this or gritty with this, you guys can take a look at the analysis tab and it will break everything down for you, giving you the price for the actual job overall, what your cost of goods sold are. So this is where we're now looking at our estimated costs on this proposal. And of course, what our net profit is going to look like. So our, estimated net profit before we even get started. Now, when you guys are looking at your estimates, there's one thing that I'm going to recommend to everybody, and you've probably already learned this in the job creation session that you learned about last week, but essentially there's 3 essential rules or 3 essential things that you guys want to have on a checklist before you go and start creating your jobs in LMN. And these basically are as follows, right? The first thing that you guys should be checking on before you create any of your jobs in LMN is that, well, the proposal has been sold, right? You've actually got your customer's approval to go ahead and do the maintenance services for them. So your estimate status should be listed as sold or contract signed or customer approved, whatever estimate status you guys have set up in your own accounts. So that's checklist item number 1. Checklist item number 2, again, it's not a rule or anything like that, but a good suggestion that you guys should have when you guys are putting together your proposals is ensuring that you've got some crew notes established or set up within the original proposal itself. Why? Well, because the information or the key information that your crews are going to need to know when they're on this particular job site doing this particular maintenance contract, they want to know, or they should be informed of what are some of the basic things that they're going to need to know while they're on the job site. Now, these can be very, very important because, again, it provides overall efficiency in the field. Your crews know what they need to do while they're on the job site. So if I take a look at any of these services that we've got set up, whether it be the mowing service, the fertilization service, or the bed maintenance service, when the crew clock into any one of these services that's scheduled for them that day, well, they're going to get that information so they know exactly what they need to do, when they need to do it, and while they're on the actual job site. So that's checklist item number 2. Checklist item number 3, just to make it easier on everybody, and especially those involved with billing out or invoicing your customers, or more importantly, getting paid for that hard work that you guys have been doing, is ensuring that you've got your contract set up. Now, when you guys are putting together your proposal, and you guys learned about this a week ago, Monday, I believe, with our CRM and maintenance estimating session, but essentially it's a good idea to make sure that you've got a contract already built in your original proposal. Now, you can decide on whether you want to share this information with your customer in that proposal conversation or not. It's entirely up to you guys, or send it over to them later on. Whatever you guys decide, there's no, again, rule or best practice when it comes to how you guys go about presenting your actual proposals to your customers, right? Again, it's you do you. But more importantly, it's a good idea to get this contract set up. Now, why? Well, because guys, when you guys put more work into the actual estimate or complete most of the areas or all of the areas in the estimate, when this estimate does become an actual job, or when you convert this estimate into the job, once the customer says yes, well, then most of the work is done for you. All you need to do is go ahead and get it scheduled and let your crews go out and get the work done. So adding a contract into your estimate makes it easier not only for you guys to make sure that your billing is already established. Again, it could help in that overall estimate proposal phase where your customer understands what they're going to be paying and how they're going to be paying and the frequency of those payments. But additionally, it also helps out your accounting team, whether it be somebody different in your company, or maybe it's you. Whatever the case may be, if you have the contract already set up, it's ready to be billed out, as long as you guys are getting that work done. So in this case here, I've got my contract set up. So checklist item number 3 is done. All right. So I can now go ahead and create a job from this actual proposal, right? It's sold, got our crew notes, we have our contract. So I'm going to click on the create job button, and I'm going to turn this or convert this estimate into an actual job. Now, for today's sake, I'm actually going to disregard or hide back or keep back any of the defaulted tasks that we're going to be adding into this job automatically. And I only want to have the original 3 individual services set up in the actual job. So I'm going to click on import now. Once this job is created, okay, for those of you guys that are on professional and enterprise, job costing is basically set up. Okay, you're basically ready to start going with this. Now, for those of you that are on our starter level subscription, when you look at the actual job costing feature, you're only going to be able to see the actual scoreboard. Now, for professional and enterprise users, again, you'll have access to this information as well. Now, you're probably wondering, why, Chris, are you spending so much time on the scoreboard? It's just a little picture so we can measure what the job's doing or how the job's doing. That's true, okay? But this is a very, very quick and easy way for you guys to measure your overall job's progress. So if you take a look at the jobs scoreboard, okay, at the very top of the page, you'll notice that the scoreboard accumulates or basically encapsulates, okay, that's my 50-cent word of the day, but basically encapsulates all of the estimated man hours you had in this project. Now, why is this important? Well, again, it's important because you can measure the overall progress of the actual scheduled contract or the job's contract. So if halfway through the year, you're already at, let's say, 12 man hours of labor, and you still have the remaining half of the actual season left to do all the rest of the services, and again, you're already at 12 hours, well, chances are probably pretty good at the end of this contract period, you're going to be over your estimated man hours. And with being over your estimated man hours, you have now accumulated or basically added additional costs or more labor costs to your job than what you had originally factored or what you had originally proposed to your customer in the first place. So you guys really should be taking a look at your scoreboard at any given time just to measure how your job is doing. Now, this is important because at the very bottom, it will identify each one of the individual services that you've set up that you had originally estimated in the first place. So mowing, for example, I estimated a total of 13 man hours. So again, if your contract starts in March and finishes in November and you're halfway through the year already and you're at 8 man hours of labor already accumulated, well, we know that you're probably going to be going over in your cost of labor, right? So again, it's going to add in or add on more cost than what you had originally estimated. So this is where you, as the actual owner, project manager, division manager, or whatever your role might be within the company, can start to look at this job and say, okay, what's going wrong? Did my estimator not estimate this correctly? Did my salesperson not sell this correctly? Or is it a problem with the crew in the field? Are they taking too long to do this job? Or have we given them a very straightforward task, but something's going wrong where they're spending more time? So again, it will give you some of the information, not exact information, like it's not going to pinpoint exactly where the problem is, but it will at least give you some kind of warning that there is a problem somewhere and give you the opportunity to investigate what that problem might be. So keep in mind, okay, scoreboard, although it's a very, very simple tool or a very simple displayed information, it's a metric that you guys should be using and keeping track of throughout a job season or a job's progress, okay? Whether it be a maintenance job or for a design build job for that matter, okay? Always make sure that you guys are checking your scoreboards just to kind of see how the job is progressing overall. Now, again, for those of you that are with professional or our enterprise level subscription, you actually have a job costing or the ability to measure, okay, the cost and revenues that you guys are earning for your actual jobs. So my friends out there that are on the starter subscription, this may be that golden reason why you want to upgrade or add on or maybe change your account from starter to professional. If you're interested in job costing, you definitely need to start with the professional level. Now, when you guys are using the job costing feature, like I said originally, or like I said in my introduction, job costing is basically started the moment you turn your job or create a job in your LMN accounts. It provides you with this basic overview. Now, when you look at this basic overview, it's broken down into the 5 primary categories that you guys also use when you are building out your price list, right? So you've got your labor items, your equipment items, your material items, your subcontractor items, and of course, any of your other items. Now, again, this basically, we just wanted to keep things really familiar with you. So if you're, if you've worked on your price list or you know how the price list feature works in LMN, it gives you that same kind of rundown or layout as your price list tool in LMN, and basically gives you guys the overall fundamentals or the familiarity, I guess it is, to kind of coincide with one tool against another one, right? Keeping things really, really similar. Now, when you first look at this overview, you'll notice at first glance that when you look at the labor items that are being estimated or that were originally estimated are basically populated at the very top of the page. And it's broken down or basically given you a total amount of man hours for this maintenance contract, 14 hours and 45 total minutes, right? These are your total estimated man hours. It will also provide you with your total estimated cost of labor to do this actual work or to do this contract. Now, if you want to see a breakdown of them by original labor items from your original proposal, well, you can simply click on that little down arrow and it will provide you with how many hours do you have estimated for your mowing visits? How many estimated man hours do you have for your fertilization visits? And how many estimated man hours do you have your bed maintenance? Again, broken down individually by each service that was originally quoted in the proposal. But why do you think, and please feel free to answer this question in the chat button at the very bottom of your screen, but why do you guys think that we don't provide you with that same subtotal of information for equipment or for materials, for subcontractors, or for any of your other items? I'll give you a couple seconds here to figure that out or to submit your answers. So, but again, why do you think LMN provides you with an estimated quantity subtotal for labor, but not for any of the other categories of line items that you're billing for in your actual job? There are no wrong answers, by the way. Nobody's willing to take a guess? No random thoughts? Well, rather than just waiting for you guys and potentially wasting some of our valuable time today, the reason why we do not provide you with a subtotaled amount based on each individual category is because, well, it's basically dependent on the individual unit of measure. Now, if you take a look at labor, labor is automatically turned on, and labor is automatically and situationally always charged by the hour and by the minute, right? So time is a universal form of measurement, right? So we're always measuring in hours and minutes. So we can provide you with that subtotal because it's standard, right? It's a common measurement. But equipment, well, that could be measured by the day or by the hour, or maybe at a flat rate. If you look at materials, for instance, that could be billed out by each, by the yard, by the square foot, or whatever the case may be, by the gallon if you're using a liquid fertilizer, and so on and so forth. So we can't, in all honesty, we cannot provide you with an estimated quantity for your equipment, for your materials, or for your subcontractors, because they have varying types of units of measure, okay? So we cannot provide that to you. However, if you actually open up your equipment list, we will provide you with how much estimated time has been spent or estimated for the truck that your FERT technician is going to use when you're doing the fertilization visit, or the crew truck when they're doing the bed maintenance visit, or the crew truck and the maintenance trailer when they're doing any of the mowing visits. So we kind of give you guys all that information broken down by each individual line item or billable line item that you had included in your original proposal. And the same holds true for your materials. So if you look at each of the individual materials, we've got 3 bags of mulch, we've got 3 of the France Fontaine flowers, we've got 3 of the Canadensis, 26 disposal waste bags, 1 bag of fertilizer, and so on and so forth. So although some of them are very common or identical to a degree, We don't just randomly put, well, you've got 5 bags of this, or 6 bags total, or 12 bags total. Right? We're not going to do that because some of them are fertilizer and some of them are disposal waste bags. So we're completely different options. So we cannot provide that to you as a subtotal. Okay. But we do break everything down for you based on the billable line items that you had included in your original proposal. Okay. Now, at the very bottom of this page, or at the very bottom of this overview, you may notice here as well that we have an estimated amount of overhead that we're going to recover towards our overhead costs, but we also have an actual amount of overhead. Now, how can we have an actual amount of overhead recovered if we haven't even started doing this job yet? Well, that's mainly because, well, it's not going to change. Okay. You're probably wondering, well, how do you mean, or where are you going with this? If you take a look back at your original proposal and you look at the analysis tab of the actual proposal itself, okay, it clearly shows you that based on the estimated pricing or the estimated services that you guys are going to be doing in your maintenance contract, you're going to basically recover $400.26 towards your overhead costs. Well, this isn't going to change. Okay. If you take a look at your services and pricing tab and look at your mowing visit, for instance, or my mowing visit, I guess in this case, I'm looking at this as 0.5 hours, so half an hour for my 2 crew members, so 15 minutes each for each one of their individual visits. So totaling a total of $65 per visit, or $65 multiplied by the 26 visits in their seasonal contract. Now, if my crew happened to spend an hour on the job site together, or half an hour, I guess, each for each employee, and I basically recover or spend a total of 1 man-hour per visit, or on certain visits, I may not, and again, this is something else that you guys can contribute to, or maybe give me your 2 cents on. But if your crew actually spends more time than was originally estimated on this job, would you charge your customer more than the price that you had originally quoted? So again, hit that chat button at the very bottom of your screen and let me know. So if you had originally quoted $65 per visit, or $187.76 a month for that month's worth of mowing visits, would you charge more because your crew spent more time than was originally estimated in the first place? Anybody? Be honest. Would you charge more? Customers expecting a bill, they've agreed to a bill, right? Kevin, you say no. All right. Anybody else? Well, let's look at it the flip side. Okay. Flip side is, I've estimated out that each employee is going to be on the job site for 15 minutes, meaning I'm going to be billing for basically a half hour per visit for labor. Now, what happens if my crew finishes it in 10 minutes? Would you give the customer money back? Because it's now going to be cheaper. No, right? Didn't think so. So based on those answers, thank you, Kevin, by the way. Okay, but based on those answers, okay, my overhead recovery is not going to change. I'm still going to be billing out my customer $187.76 a month for the mowing visit, whether I spend more time on the job site or less time on the job site. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's still going to be the same fixed amount, which means I'm still going to recover the same amount of overhead, okay, when I bill this out. Right. So again, it's pretty much a straightforward. So when you look at the job costing in the actual job itself, this is why LMN provides you with an actual amount of overhead recovered versus your estimated amount of overhead recovered, because you're not going to be charging more than what you had originally quoted for the work, nor are you going to be giving your customer money back if you do it quicker. Okay. Again, it's going to be a flat amount, right? 187 a month, or whatever your per visit charge is going to be. So we can provide that information to you moving forward. Okay. Now, for those of you that have attended our job costing for design build session, or may have watched the recording that was sent out to you following that presentation, maintenance job costing and design build job costing, for most reasons or for most of the actual tool itself, are pretty identical. There's not much of a difference between job costing maintenance versus job costing design build. Although job costing maintenance does take a longer period of time, because chances are probably pretty good you're looking at a seasonal contract that starts at the beginning of the year and finishes in the end of the year. Whereas a design build job might be a 2-week project, it might be a 4-week project, or it might be an 8-week project, depending on the size. So it does have a smaller time frame where you'll be able to get all that job costing or the end result a lot quicker. Now, the primary difference for job costing with maintenance work versus job costing for design build work is how items are going to be tracked using our LMN Crew mobile app from the field. So essentially, when you guys are using the job costing feature in LMN, whether it be for design build or maintenance work, you do need to activate each of the materials or each of the billable line items in order for it to be tracked accurately. So what this is going to do is provide your crews in the field with information to then start reporting on the quantities that they've actually used while they were on the job site. So for instance, if I go into my materials list or even into my equipment list, I want my crews to let me know how long did they use the crew truck for, or the maintenance crew truck, or the crew truck and the maintenance trailer. I need to know, I want them to tell me exactly how long that was used for. So I need to activate tracking or feedback from my crews in the field. So if I look at my FERT tech or the FERT truck for my FERT technician, again, I click on the actual line item itself or its overview item, and it opens up another menu for me on the right-hand side. And when I open up the menu for that, look what actually pops up. When you first look at its overview, it pops up yet another scoreboard, but this is an individual scoreboard based on that particular line item. So I can see here that we've got an estimated quantity of 1 hour for this FERT truck, and I can gauge its progress as well as its estimated cost for that 1 hour. Now, if I look at my timesheets, any timesheet records that are going to be recorded that have this line item included on it will provide it, or will give you guys an idea right here. And over in the settings menu, okay, we need to then turn this on. Okay, so here, this is where you're going to now track it on a timesheet. Now, once you turn this feature on, you're then going to be looking at your track quantity. And if you remember looking at the overview, okay, and we're going to just cancel there for a second. We're going to hit save on this for so far. If I go back to the overview, I have an estimated 1 hour. But when I look at the actual tracking of this individual item, it's showing me a defaulted quantity of 0.25 or 15 minutes. Where's that information coming from? Where do you think that information came from? Any guesses? Well, that default quantity comes from your original proposal. So if you take a look at your original estimate and I take a look at my fertilization service, I can see here that there's my 0.25, right? So that's my defaulted quantity. But what it's doing for you guys, when you look at the overview or the scoreboard for that line item, it's basically taking the 0.25 or the 15 minutes of time that it takes to do the fertilization on a per visit basis and multiplying by multiplying it up against the 4 total visits. So we're 0.25 times 4, that equals 1, okay? So that's exactly where you're getting the overview estimated quantity of 1 and the defaulted quantity on a per visit basis, okay? Now, at the very bottom of this page, or I guess midpoint of this page, it then asks you, what service do you want to track this line item against? Okay, this is where it's different against design build. Design build, unfortunately, will not give you the individual line items on a work area by work area basis. It just basically gives you all of the actual line items that were included in the original proposal in one long list that your crews, once you turn tracking on, will then have to go through and indicate what they used when they were doing that visit in that particular work area. But with maintenance, because we have service types involved, we can now indicate what service do we want to track this particular line item against when we're doing that particular visit. So in this case here, when you first turn this feature on, it will always track against all the individual services. But I know that when we're using the actual Fertex truck, it's only when we're doing a fertilization visit. So I can go into my selected services side and turn off mowing and bed maintenance because I only want to track the fert truck against my fertilization visit. Okay. At the very bottom, you'll go to invoicing, and this is no longer billable. Okay. So our fertilization, if we take a look at our original estimate, okay. Oh, actually, we're charging per hour on this. So I do need to correct this because at default, it's basically, we want to charge by the hour on this. And we know that our unit cost is $17.74. And we want to price this out at $25 per hour. Okay. And of course, we want to basically show the date or show the date and time in which we use this when we send the invoice out to our customer. Okay. Click on save, right? That will basically activate or make sure that that individual line item is now trackable when our crews are doing that actual service. Now I can do the same thing with my crew truck. Okay. I can go into my settings, track it on my timesheet, and again, allocate this to when I'm doing my bed maintenance service. Click on save and do the same thing finally with my crew truck and my maintenance trailer. Track on my timesheets. There's my 15 minutes of time on the actual job site. And again, I only want to track that when I'm doing my mowing visit. Okay. Very, very straightforward. Double check your invoicing, making sure that if you guys are doing seasonal billing or straightforward or flat per visit billing, that you've got this set up as non-billable or not billable. Okay. Now, again, you can do the same thing with your individual materials, right? The Canada Pine Bark Mulch, the Franz Fontaine, the cadenzas, disposal waste bags. But in this case, I want to actually turn on my fertilizer. Okay. I want to track it on my timesheets. And again, I want to select the service that I'm going to be using this on, which is not mowing, not bed maintenance, but but fertilization. Wow. Got that a little bit backwards, didn't I? All right, click on save. Okay. So now if my crew clock into the fertilization visit to do a FERT app, well, now we know that we're tracking the labor. That's automatic. That doesn't need to be turned on, by the way. But if I also track the FERT truck as well as the actual amount of fertilizer I used while I was on the site, I can get accurate quantities of while I'm actually on the job site doing that particular visit. Okay. Now it works the same way with mowing, right? If I'm doing mowing visits, right, disposal waste bags, if I take a look at my original proposal and go into mowing, I have disposal waste bags. I've got 1 bag per visit times 26 visits. So I know that I'm going to be using 26 of these eventually. So again, if I go into my fertilizer or into my disposal waste bag, okay, I want to turn this one on for tracking. There's my defaulted 1 bag per visit. And I only want to track this against my mowing visit. Okay, pretty straightforward. And this is a built-in price, so it's not billable, right? Click on save. Now, that's basically getting your job set up. Now, this may look, or this may seem like a little frustrating or a little bit time consuming, but it is. Okay, you are going to be turning on, or if you want to accurately job cost any of your maintenance contracts, you do need to go in and get the job set up. So it will take you some time. Now, there are faster ways to activate all of your items for tracking, but there's one exception to this moving forward. Okay, if I go into my materials and equipment tab for this actual job and I get a listing of all the materials and equipment that I'm going to be using on this job, I can go into this and actually activate everything really, really easily by just clicking these little toggle buttons on for every single one of these individual line items. Totally fine, right? This is a quick little shortcut that will give you guys that opportunity. I see we've got a question here. Any quick advice on how to encourage the crews who have historically not had to track these types of things to begin accurately tracking these things? I wouldn't necessarily say, Kevin, that I have any quick advice. I mean, realistically, this could be another 1 hour or half-hour conversation, because realistically, there's no real advice that I can give you that's going to correct an action that your crews in the field are not used to. But that being said, okay, if you have crews that are basically they're loyal, they're faithful to your company, and they understand that in order for them to get paid, you need to make revenue. And in order for you to make revenue, you need to track what's being used in the field. Well, maybe, okay, they'll look at it that way and say, you know what, then I'm kind of contributing to the overall, or I'm contributing to my own paycheck. By accurately telling my boss or the owner of the company what we actually used on the site, it lets him know that we job costed this out effectively, which means they have enough money to pay me. I don't know if that makes any sense to you or not, but if it does, give me a quick little thumbs up at the very bottom of your screen, hit that little reaction button if that makes sense or if that would work. But realistically, it's a conversation, okay? It's more of a, you know, how determined or how faithful are your employees, or how responsible are they to make sure that, you know, in order for your company to grow or for them to get paid, you guys need to make money. So we need to know what was actually used on the job site. So that would be my only advice to that one, Kev. All right. Now, like I was saying before, okay, when you guys are activating all of these individual line items on your for your crews in the field, when you do it this way, okay, you're creating that long list. Okay, it's not being tracked by individual services. So like design build tracking for job costing, when you do it this way and go through materials and equipment and basically activate everything in this fashion, okay, it's not going to condense the list, or I guess make it more accurate for your crews. So for those of you that are doing maintenance and design build, okay, make sure that the individuals or the crew leads and foremen that are doing or that lead a maintenance crew understand the difference. Okay, and maybe Kevin, this might help if you've got crews that do both types of work. This might help them when they're doing maintenance work. We can accurately tell you, just choose from the, you know, the items that you're going to be using or that were quoted out for this particular service. Might make it a little bit easier. It might also encourage them to then, you know, start doing tracking with maintenance work and then start tracking with design build work. Entirely up to you how you want to roll with this. Okay. Now, that being said, we've got everything turned on. We're accurately tracking everything. We now kind of want a good idea, or at least get an idea of how that information is basically conveyed to you back at the office while you're, you know, while you're at the office and while your crews are in the field. So for that, we're actually going to need the LMN Crew mobile app. So I'm going to get this app opened up for you, and we're going to actually walk through a little bit of a demonstration here of how your crews are actually going to start recording that information from the field. So I'm going to go to that USB connection. I'll move my phone over in a second so you guys can see this. Okay, and actually, while we've got this set up, I'm going to add this to a job group so I can find it really easy. Once LMN decides to stop doing its little hiccup. All right. So we'll go into our job groups, and we're just going to add this to our job costing job group. All right. So we know which job we're looking at. Okay. So that being all said, let's take a look at the LMN Crew mobile app. So let me move my phone over. Quick little thumbs up, everybody, if you don't mind. Just let me make sure that you guys can see a phone on screen right now. Yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you very much for that, by the way. So when you're in your LMN Crew mobile app, okay, and your crews are actually out in the field, what they're going to be looking at, and I want to add in another employee onto my crew today. So I'm going to add in good old Jim. So I'm going to add a third person to this crew. So we're going to add Jim. Okay, add that one crew member. So we've got 3 crew members on this job now or available to be clocked in. And we want to take a look at an actual job so that we can track against it. So I'm going to go into my job groups listing and I'm going to pull from my job group, which is the job costing demonstration, which is right here. Close this menu off on the side. All right, so here's our actual job. If I go down and select a task, what task do I want to do? Okay, so for today's sake, let's say we're going to be doing the mowing visit. Okay, we've got 3 guys. We're going to be doing mowing. So we're going to click on that mowing visit or start our time on the mowing visit. And we're just going to say that we started our time. And I'm going to back time this a little bit here to 3 o'clock. So I'm just going to adjust this to the Samsung keyboard. And we're going to say that we started this at 3 o'clock. And we're going to save our changes. Okay, so we're starting our time for this mowing visit. Here's our task notes, pretty straightforward. We're going to start our task. Okay, now once we're done this, we're going to be punching out. So here, we're going to stop our time. Okay, the 3 of us, currently we've been on site now for 1 hour and 15 minutes, but we're going to click on next. We're going to say that we did our mowing visit. And once I click on that mowing visit, I want to go through and indicate what we actually used while we were on the job site. So in this case here, I can indicate straight off, all right, that we've got an estimated amount of yard waste bags, 26. We've got an estimated quantity of 1 per visit. And so far we've already logged 1. So we're going to log another one and we're going to click on next. Okay. And again, we've got our materials. Down the very bottom of our page, we can indicate what we used as far as equipment was concerned. So in this case here, we can say 0.25. Okay, mark that as next. We can add in our notes and just put in here, mowing is done. Mowing done. We see our weather conditions. And of course, any equipment notes that we want to put in, click on done. Click on next, add us some photos if we want to of what we actually took, maybe some before and after photos of what the yard looked like after we were finished. Click next. Here we're going to say that we finished at 3:16. Okay, we're going to click on done. We're going to end our task. Okay. So now that that's been done and that visit has been completed, right? We marked the service off as being completed. We've recorded our time. We were on site for a total of 16 minutes times 3 employees. So for a total of 48 minutes, we've marked that service off as being completed. So now if we go back into our job and we look at the actual job costing and take a look at its overview, we should have some populated information, right? Especially when it comes to our actuals. So if I refresh my page just to kind of get a new or an updated view of this, okay, I want to get an idea of what my actual quantities are. Okay, so I don't have any actual quantities yet. Now, can anybody guess or does anybody know why I might not have any actual quantity or actual recorded labor hours for this particular visit yet? You saw me go through the timesheet. You saw me clock in and clock out and basically put it in and register it. Why do you think I don't have any actual quantity of hours recorded against this yet? If I go to my scoreboard, okay, I can see that we've got 5% overall progress on this job and that we've logged 0.8 of an hour against the 13 total estimated. So that gives me some information. But why don't I have any actual costing on this job yet? Jonathan, not approved timesheet. Kevin, payroll. You guys are on the right track. Okay. It does have something to do with the timesheet. What do your crews need to do at the end of every single day in order for their hours to get locked in? Clock out? After that. What does your foreman have to do with that timesheet once their hours are all logged for the day? they need to submit their timesheet, right? Jonathan, good job. I'm sure you were typing that while I was saying it, so I'm going to give you the credit for that one. So the timesheet needs to be submitted. So if I go back to the LMN Crew mobile app, take a look at my timesheet and review my timesheet, at the very bottom of my page, I'm going to submit my timesheet. And once I've submitted it, and nobody took a lunch, because again, we're just using this as an example, I submit my timesheet, and now that I see that this has been submitted and I'm getting that, hey, great job, okay, I can go back into my job, I can refresh my job, and now I'm going to get some actual quantities, right? So now I've got 48 minutes. I've got an estimated quantity of, or an estimated cost of labor for all of this work of $402.71. And now for those 48 minutes of labor, okay, I've got an actual cost of $18.51. Okay, again, remember, it was only 15 minutes, so it's not like we're paying for a week or anything like that. So that's why the number looks so low. Now, at the very top of your page, after every day or after every one of the visit, okay, your scoreboard, like I showed you, will give you guys a overall progress in live real time. Okay, the scoreboard, the timesheet does not need to be submitted. You're going to get live information while your crews are on site throughout the course of the day or throughout the course of the season, whichever comes first. But at the very top of your page, okay, LMN will always provide you guys with action items. And this is going to help you to understand, okay, what needs to potentially be fixed in order for you to get better, accurate numbers. So in this case here, I know that I've got 2 actions to make this job costing accurate. If I click on this little down arrow, it's going to tell me that I need to update wage costs for 1 staff member, or I need to, I need to create an invoice for me to start getting actual revenue numbers. Okay, so I need to start looking at these 2 things. So to update your actual staff wage cost, I'm going to have to go into my settings menu and click on my users and staff. And now I have to look at that timesheet and figure out which staff members or which crew members were on that crew that day that logged some time. Well, I know Chris was on that job site, so I can go down and check Chris's profile. And when I open up Chris's profile, if I look at the edit staff member button at the very bottom and then look at the time tracking and payroll, I want to go into my wage costs. And I can see here that I do have Chris's wage costs. So that one's not an issue. If I go back to my users and staff, okay, and I take a look at my next member, maybe Jim, okay, that we just added in, okay, I can look at Jim. Again, go through the same process, edit staff member, time tracking and payroll, and go to the wage costs. So I have his. That just means that I don't have Dwight's. So I'm going to go down into my list and I'm going to look up Dwight and I'm going to check his profile and make sure that I've got wage cost added in for Dwight. And in this case, if I go to my wage costs, I don't have anything for him. So in this case here, wage costs. Okay, I don't have anything for him and I'm getting that blue little warning label. So what I need to do at this level is I need to now go in and add in what Dwight's wage cost, or what does it cost me to employ Dwight. So I pay Dwight $20 an hour for all payroll codes. I'm going to use my 2024 fiscal budget with an 18% markup to cover his labor burden charges, and put in what his actual cost is of $23.60 per hour and click on add. Okay. Once I do that, okay, it will now add that to the file. I click on save. Now, if I go back to the actual job, okay, it will refresh the job for me. And now if I look at my labor, I've now gone from $18.71 to $24.80. So it's now increased my cost based on the 15 minutes of labor that each one of those employees worked, or 16 minutes of labor, whichever way you guys want to look at, if you're curious about that 1 extra minute. So there's still one other thing that I need to do here in order for me to get accurate job costing or start getting some actual representation on this job. And that's basically to create an actual invoice for this. So when you guys are invoicing, okay, so if I go into invoicing and go into my invoice schedule, if I were to invoice the July 31st invoice, just by clicking on the generation button, okay, and clicking on yes, and generating an invoice for July's mowing visits, okay, I can generate an invoice for $187.76 plus $24.41 in tax for a sum total of $212.17. If I click on save, okay, I now have that invoice created. Therefore, when I go back to job costing and take a look at its overview, I'm now going to start getting more information at the very top of my page. I'm going to see now that out of the $2,435 of estimated revenue for this project, I've so far received 7.7% from a $188 plus tax invoice. Okay. So it kind of gives me my net profit versus gross profit. Okay. My cost is showing me that I'm still below cost on this job. I'm at $53 of cost so far, right? Adding up my $2,260 and my $2,480. Okay. Out of the $1,602 that I've got left over on this project. But more importantly, according to my action items, I'm still on track. Okay. Now, there's one last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about or walk you guys through when it comes to job costing. And again, this is available for those of you that are on professional and or enterprise level subscriptions with LMN, is something called vendor bills. Okay. Vendor bills basically take into account any add-on materials that may have been picked up that you didn't originally estimate for, and or items that you did estimate for, but you still picked up on the way to the actual job site and had to spend money on so that you could do it for this actual job or use it for this actual job. So the best example that I have for this are the disposal waste bags, for instance. So if I look at my job costing, I look at my overview, and I look at my materials, if I look at my disposal waste bag, okay, I can see here that we're spending $587.60 per bag. If I open it up and take a look at the actual settings on this and take a look at its invoicing, I can see that each bag that I normally buy, I pay $31.11 for a collection of them. Now, if I happen to not have any in stock or my crew don't have to happen to have any while they're on the truck and they go to actually buy some of these, well, we're going to need to make that adjustment. And how do we do that? We use the actual vendor bill feature. So if I go into my vendor bill feature or the vendor bill option, and I want to add in the receipt or that purchase, I can say that my crew stopped at Home Depot on the way down to the actual job site. We can enter in the actual bill number. For those of you that are on professional and enterprise, I highly recommend you to instruct your crews that if and any time they do make a stop and pick up materials for a particular job on their route for the day, that they take a photo of that actual receipt and attach it to their timesheet, whether it be for the service that they're going to be doing next or in general, okay? That way you guys can actually get a photographic copy that you can download and attach to the actual vendor bill for that particular job, okay? So in this case here, we're going to say needed waste bags, okay? Now, a cool feature here, guys, that's available to you as well, that vendor bill or that receipt that you guys receive from the photograph can be uploaded to your QuickBooks account automatically as well. So if you guys are using QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop, you do have the ability to queue that vendor bill and export that vendor bill over to your accounting software, right? QuickBooks, or more appropriately, allocate that purchase as part of your accounts payable, if that's the case, okay? So here I want to basically upload a copy of that receipt. So I'm going to upload from my desktop. Okay, so I'm going to go into desktop. I'm going to go into LMN stuff, and I'm going to go actually desktop, LMN stuff, vendor bills. Okay, and I'm going to put in a copy of that receipt. So I have a photocopy of it. I'm going to add in my line items now. So there's the copy of my receipt. I'm going to put in here that we purchased some waste bags. Okay, and let's say we purchased, I don't know, 10 bundles. Okay, and each of those bundles, which we normally buy from a common vendor or our usual vendor, we pay $31.11 for. But at Home Depot, that bundle, okay, was actually $35. okay? So our total cost plus tax, okay, by adding that item was now $395.50, okay? A lot higher than what we had originally estimated for. Now, in this case here, we want to allocate one of these bags to this particular job. So we'll go into that waste bag or into that particular line item, click on the little down arrow, and we know it's for the 600 Aspen Road job. We know it's a material, and we know that we used one out of those 10 bundles that we purchased. So we're going to allocate one to that actual job, okay? And then we're going to save that information. Now, once that information is actually saved to our job, if we go back to our job itself and click on the close button and go to our materials and equipment, okay, we can see what our costs were on our disposal waste bags, right? $31.11 normally. But if we go into our job costing feature and take a look at our overview and take a look now at our materials, okay, we look at our disposal waste bags. Out of the 26, we used one, and we've got an overall cost of $22.60. But at the very top, when we look at our cost totals for materials, we can now see that we're over by $39.55. Okay, so again, this is very, very key information. So you're going to want to do this, okay, adding in vendor bills for any additional purchases, but more importantly, for any materials and equipment that you're adding to any of the services in this maintenance contract that you didn't already estimate for. If your crews ended up having to take a skid steer for some bizarre reason, okay, you can add this to the actual job as well to say, okay, while we were doing the bed maintenance visit or the mowing visit, whatever the case may be, they ended up using a skid steer. All right, we can click on this and we can add it from our price list. So by no means, okay, are you limited to what was originally estimated if your crews happen to use something else or something different or something additional while they're on the job site. You can always add in the cost of that addition at any given time throughout the overall jobs contract period. All right. So guys, that's basically the ins and outs or the big picture for the job costing feature in LMN. So before you guys leave and before I start doing recaps and overviews and all that kind of stuff, okay, I want to give you guys a quick little, don't want to call it a test necessarily, but want to kind of give you guys a little poll to see what you've learned about the actual job costing feature in LMN. While you guys answer those three questions, okay, let's take a look at what else is available with your LMN subscription that you guys have access to. Number one, when you guys are looking at LMN, remember as well that if there's anything additional that you want to learn about the job costing feature in LMN, you can always check out our help desk or our LMN Academy online. Both of these features are available by clicking on that little help and resources menu in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. The help desk will give you written out articles based on every single feature and every single tool that's available in LMN. Whereas the Academy Online are brief little video tutorials about every feature as well, okay, based on individual learning plans. If you have any questions about anything that's been covered off here today or any questions about job costing, feel free to enter that into the chat button or the Q&A at the very bottom. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you as well. Also wanted to give you guys a brief little introduction to our self-registration for live virtual trainings. So if there's anybody in your company or anybody on your team that you feel would benefit from learning about job costing or any of the other features that are available in LMN, again, hit that help and resources button at the very bottom of your screen and click on live virtual trainings, okay? That will allow you to register them for any of the sessions that we hold. And job costing for maintenance or job costing from design build are held every Wednesday and Tuesday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Additionally, keep in mind as well that coming soon to the LMN head office here in Markham, Ontario, Toronto, Canada, we're going to be hosting 2 4-day in-person trainings. One will be a basic training session, which will take 4 days, and we'll walk you through the basics of every single tool available in LMN. Or you guys could choose our second week, which is advanced training. All right. So again, there's 2 separate options. And additionally, coming soon in a few weeks, actually, we're going to be also hosting across various cities in the US, 5 cities to be exact. snow training, okay, on how you guys can use LMN for your snow training. So again, under help and resources, click on Academy, and this will take you guys to our self-registration page to buy tickets to see our attend our in-person training. Finally, under our resources menu on our primary webpage, we have our weekly mastermind sessions that are held every week at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. This is not LMN specifically related. This is landscaping industry related conversations from industry professionals. So again, it's a great little time to hang out with some of the best in the business and get some ideas and some insights into how they use or what they're doing within their landscaping companies. Now, on behalf of all of us here at LMN, the education team, and of course myself, I want to thank you guys for sticking around a couple minutes longer than what was originally allocated for this session. So to learn a little bit more about job costing and how it works in LMN. So if you guys don't mind, when this webinar closes, please keep in mind that a 2-question survey will pop up and will be asked for you guys to fill out. So please give us some feedback on this session. If there's anything we missed or anything that you guys would like additionally to the actual job costing maintenance session, entirely up to you. The more feedback we get, the better it will be for everybody. All right. So again, on behalf of the education team here at LMN and myself, I want to thank you guys for attending this session today. Please be well. And if you're heading out into the field at any time, please stay safe. And I look forward to seeing you guys on another one of these sessions. All right. Take care, everybody. And thank you very much for all of your questions today. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Goodbye.